Welcome to Alter Health, the epigenetic code. This is where we talk about the science of how your life shapes your genes and how your body can change when you change the conditions around it. Real stories, real science, and real answers. Let's go. There's a version of burnout nobody talks about. The one that does not look like burnout. From the outside, it looks like a life most people would want. Big house, 2 healthy kids, a successful career. A husband you have loved since you were teenagers. Vacations once or twice a year, a garden, a dog, friends, money in the bank. And inside that life, 2 people who barely saw each other. 2 people who said goodnight with their eyes already closed. 2 people whose bodies were quietly running on empty for years. Not breaking down in any obvious way, just slowly draining. I was one of those 2 people, and my husband was the other one. And I'm telling you this story because what happened next, what eventually went wrong with his health, and what I had to learn to fix it, did not start in a hospital. It didn't start with a diagnosis. It started years earlier, in a kitchen in Bavaria, on a Tuesday evening when I sat on the couch and couldn't speak anymore. So before we get to the part where doctors told us there was no answer, before we get to the genetic disease nobody could pronounce, before we get to Dubai, and the work I do now, I want to take you back. Because the soil was already poisoned long before anything grew out of it. And I think a lot of you are living in that same soil right now and do not realize it yet. This is Alter Health, the medicine nobody told you about. And I'm Dr. Nicola Schmitz. So let me paint the picture properly. Because if you only see the end of my story, the part where I help people heal, you will think I'm one of those naturally calm wellness types who always knew how to live well, and I was not. I was the opposite. I am German. I grew up there, studied dentistry, became an orthodontist, and build my practice in Garmisch-Partenkirchen. If you don't know it, Garmisch is this beautiful town at the foot of the Bavarian Alps. Mountains everywhere, snow in winter, hiking trails in summer, tourists from all over the world. The kind of place people come to relax. I didn't always relax there. I worked there. And my husband and I had been together since high school. We were what Americans call high school sweethearts. We met when I was 17, married in 1997, and our 2 daughters came in 2000 and 2005. He had his own business, I had my own, and we built our lives the way many ambitious couples build them. Side by side, both running hard, both trying to make sure the other one could also have a career. We split everything down the middle. Family, work, household, finances. We were a team. And we were proud of that. But here's what nobody tells you about being a team that ambitious. At some point, the team becomes the only thing that exists. The 2 people inside the team disappear. We had this big house, lovely house, garden, lots of rooms, all the things you have supposed to want. And every weekend, the house was a project. Repairs, garden work, errands, appointments, groceries, school stuff for the kids. The week was for work. The weekend was for everything we didn't get done during the week. There was no actual rest in the year. There was working time and there was catch-up time. That was it. And the strange thing is, you don't notice this is happening. You think this is just life, right? You think, well, everyone's tired, everyone's busy. We have 2 kids, 2 businesses, a house, a dog, many animals. Of course we are exhausted. That's normal. That is what I told myself for years. And my husband would leave the house early, before I was really awake. He had a long commute, a demanding schedule, employees, clients. He would come home late in the evenings, sometimes after 9 or even later. By that time, I had finished work, picked up the kids, done homework, made dinner, dealt with whatever crisis the day had thrown at me, and I was on the couch in this kind of zombie state. Not really watching TV, not really thinking, just breathing in and out, waiting for the day to be over and just surviving. And I remember, this still hurts to say out loud, I remember telling him so many times when he came in, I would say, "I'm sorry, I cannot talk anymore." That was the greeting. Not "how was your day?" Not "let me hug you," not even "hello" properly. Just, "I'm sorry, I cannot talk." And he would nod, because he understood, because he was just as fried as I was. He would sit down, eat something, watch a bit of TV to come down from his day, because that is what people need after running at full speed for 12 hours. They need to power down. Except by the time he was ready to power down, it was already late, and by the time he came to bed, it was even later. So he was sleeping 5 to 6 hours. I was sleeping a little more, but not much, and not deep. That went for years. Years. And here's something I want you to really sit with, because this is one of the most important things I have learned in my work since then. There is a kind of damage that does not show up on any test. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't have a name, and a kind of slow erosion of a human being that no doctor will ever flag in a checkup, because there's no marker for it. There's no blood value for it, and no scan. It is the damage of being slightly too stressed, too underslept, slightly too disconnected from yourself, too rushed, too cut off from joy, every single day for years. And every single day, the damage is small enough that you can ignore it. You think, okay, I'm tired today, I will sleep more on the weekend, or okay, I'm irritable today, I will be nicer tomorrow, or okay, I'm eating bad food right now between appointments, I'll start eating better next month. And next month never comes, because next month looks exactly like this month. Vacations became a strange thing. We would plan them, we would look forward to them, and then we would arrive somewhere beautiful and spend the first 4 or 5 days just trying to come down, trying to slow our nervous systems enough to actually feel like we were on vacation. And right around the time we finally felt human, the vacation was over. And then we had the post-vacation chaos. Suitcases, laundry, mail, work piling up, kids back to school. Within 48 hours of getting home, we were exactly where we had been before we left. Sometimes worse because of the catch-up. And I started asking myself a question that, looking back, was the first real warning sign. I started asking myself, does this actually make sense? Not in a dramatic way, not in an existential crisis way, just a quiet, persistent question that came up while I was loading the dishwasher or driving to work. Does this make sense? Is this a life or is this a treadmill? Are we actually living, or are we just doing the things we are supposed to do? The honest answer was, we were on the treadmill. And the treadmill was not slowing down. The kids needed more, not less. The businesses needed more, not less. So did the house. And our bodies kept giving and giving, with less and less coming back. Our marriage was the strange anchor in all of this. Because we were childhood sweethearts, because we had a long, deep, real history together, the relationship survived the years of being half-functioning roommates. We didn't fall out of love. We just fell out of contact with each other. We were two tired people sleeping in the same bed, parenting the same kids, paying the same mortgage, and barely actually meeting each other anymore. And I think a lot of long marriages live in that exact place and do not say it out loud. We argued about small things sometimes, nothing big, nothing about us, just the kind of small, sharp irritation that comes out when both people are running on fumes. I know now, because of what I do today, that there is a genetic component to how each of us handles stress. Some people are wired with very high stress resilience. They take a punch and bounce back. Others, like the two of us, are not. We are wired with a more sensitive system. And when we are pushed too hard for too long, we do not just feel tired, we start to corrode. The arguments are not really about the dishes or the schedule. They are the body screaming, I cannot hold this anymore. Please give me space. Neither of us understood that yet. We just thought we were being snippy. I want to tell you about the first thing that scared me, even though at the time I told myself it was nothing. I've always been the kind of person who insists on regular checkups. I'm a doctor by training. I trusted prevention more than I trusted crisis management. Every 2 years, both of us would do a full panel. Blood work, ultrasound, everything. Every 2 years. And there were these two values in my husband's blood work that were a little off. Just a little. Not flagged as dangerous. The kind of numbers a doctor looks at and says, slightly elevated, but it's not heart-related and you're not having a heart attack. You have no symptoms. Don't worry about it. We will check again in 2 years. These two values usually get looked at when someone is suspected of having a heart problem. He had no heart problem. So the doctors shrugged. I shrugged too, the first few times, because I had no reason to push back. The numbers were slightly off. Everything else was fine. He felt fine. He looked fine. But then something started bothering me. Around 4 or 5 years before everything came to a head, I noticed his hands had a slight tremor. Not all the time, not dramatic. The kind of tremor you see if you really look. If he was holding a coffee cup, you might catch the surface of the coffee shaking just a little. I would point it out sometimes and he would say, I don't know. Maybe I had too much coffee, maybe I slept badly, maybe my back is tense. He even went to doctors about it. The answers he got were vague. It's not Parkinson's, your scans are clear. Oh, yeah, maybe it's a tension issue in your back. Maybe a pinched nerve. Try this physical therapy or that stretching. Take a multivitamin, get more sleep. And the tremor stayed. It didn't get dramatically worse, but it didn't go away. It became his background thing in our life. The slight shake in his hands. We started joking about it. He would pour water and it would slosh a little and we would laugh. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice was getting louder. The voice was saying, "This is not nothing. The blood values plus the tremor, this is not random." And I didn't know what the connection was or if there was any. I didn't act on it for a long time. I had no reason to. The doctors had cleared him. He had no symptoms otherwise. He was strong, energetic, working full days, lifting things, building things, going skiing. There was nothing visibly wrong. And here's the part I really want you to hear. Because I see this in my clients all the time now. The body is talking. It is always talking. Long before things go wrong, it is talking. Small signals, a value that is a little off, a symptom that comes and goes, a sense that something is shifting. And we are taught to ignore those signals because they are not yet at the level where the system, the medical system, has a checkbox for them. So we are told, "You're fine, come back when it gets worse." What I've learned since then, what I now teach, is that "come back when it gets worse" is the most expensive sentence in modern medicine. Because by the time it is worse, you have lost years of opportunity. Years where the body was asking for help and nobody listened. My husband's body was asking for help. The blood values were the asking. The tremor was the asking. The years of stress, the bad sleep, the rushed meals, the no time for anything, that was the soil. And in that soil, something was about to grow. About 6 years ago, we did the routine blood work again. Same panel as always, 2-year checkup. This time, those two values were not slightly off. They had gone through the roof. And the doctor, the same kind of doctor we had seen before, looked at the results and said, "Well, it's probably still nothing serious. Let's just keep watching it." That was the moment something snapped in me. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, very firm way. I sat in that office and I thought, no, we're not just watching this anymore. We've been watching this for years. The numbers have been climbing for years. We do not get all this blood work done so that we can ignore the results when they go bad. That is not why we do prevention, right? I told the doctor with a level of directness I do not usually have that we needed to find out what was happening. Not in 2 years, now. So what followed was months of being passed from one specialist to another. Each one had a different theory, each one ran their own tests, each one ruled out their own corner of the problem and sent us to the next person. Cardiology said it is not a heart issue. Neurology said it's not Parkinson, it's not MS. The scans are clean. Internal medicine said maybe it's muscular, maybe it's metabolic. Endocrinology checked thyroid, checked hormones, all normal. Sports medicine suggested overtraining, even though he was not overtraining. Weeks of appointments, weeks of driving to clinics and waiting for results. And every time the same thing. We do not see anything. We do not know what's wrong. Come back if it gets worse. And I want you to hear how that feels, because if you've been there, you know. You're sitting in a waiting room with the person you love most in the world. You both know something is wrong. The numbers say something is wrong. His body says something is wrong. And every doctor in the country, in this very good medical system that we trust and pay for, is saying, we cannot help you, we don't know. After months of this, we hit the wall. The last specialist we saw essentially said, look, we have ruled out the obvious things. You are not in immediate danger. Just live your life and we will keep an eye on the numbers. That was the official medical position. Live your life and wait. My husband was okay with that. He's the kind of person who can accept things calmly. He thought, well, the doctors did their job. We tried. This is what it is. I was not okay with that. Not even a little. I sat in our kitchen the night after that last appointment and I felt something I had not felt before. It was not panic. It was not grief. It was something colder and clearer. It was my decision. I thought, okay, if the medical system has nothing for us, then I will find something myself. I do not know where. I don't know how. I don't know what I'm looking for. But I'm not going to sit here and watch his numbers climb and wait for whatever is coming. I'm going to find out, whatever it takes. That night, after the kids went to bed, I opened my laptop and I started reading. I didn't know it yet, but that night was the night the rest of my life began. So that is where I want to leave you today, in that kitchen, with a laptop open, with a wife who has decided she's not going to accept what the doctor said, with a husband upstairs who's sleeping, not yet aware that his life is about to change because of what his wife is about to find. Because here's the thing, I did find something. I found it after months of reading at 2 a.m, hundreds of medical research papers, things that had nothing to do with each other on the surface. Tremor research, muscle disease research, hormone studies, genetic disorders. I read until my eyes burned. And in the middle of all of that, I found a single paper that connected the tremor to those 2 specific blood values. And once I had that connection, I started pulling on that thread. And what I found at the end of that thread was a diagnosis. A diagnosis no doctor had even thought of. A diagnosis so rare that the geneticist who eventually confirmed it actually laughed at the doctor who ordered the test because nobody finds this disease this early. Nobody. Nobody except a wife who would not stop reading because of love. Next week, I'm going to take you inside that search. I'm going to walk you through how I found it, how I argued for the test, and how the test came back, and what it felt like to be right and to wish I was wrong. Because finding the answer was only step 1, and step 1 was already the easy part. If something in this episode landed for you, if you recognize that exhausted treadmill, or if you have a body that is whispering things and you keep ignoring them because the doctor said you're fine, please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for being here. I see you next Tuesday, because health is a choice.